guys, it's Angela, and today I'm going to tell you about all the books I read during the month of December. So I had initially planned to read 12 books for December for like the 12 days of Christmas, but that didn't work out, and I also made a TBR video for December, which I didn't stick to. So yeah, I read a total of 10 books during the month of December. 1 2-star book, 2 3-star books, 2 4-star books, and 5 5-star books. So let's get into all the books. So as per usual, I'm going to be starting with my lowest rated books and working my way up to my highest rated books. So the first book I have to talk about is my 2-star book, and that was The Silent Patient by Alex McLeod, I think. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. And this book is about this woman named Alicia who shoots her husband in the face 5 times, killing him, and then she ends up in a psychiatric ward where she maintains completely silent throughout the whole thing. From the moment she shot him until years later, present day, she has not said a word in her defense or confession-wise. She's just completely silent. And in this book, there's a psychotherapist named Theo who is working at the facility that Alicia's staying at. And his goal is to find out what happened and get her to talk. So this book did win the Goodreads Choice Award for, I think, Best Thriller of 2019. So knowing that going into it, and knowing that this book beat some of my other favorites of the year, including The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and another book that I'll be mentioning later in this video, my expectations were pretty high. And this book overall just fell incredibly flat for me. I read 21 thrillers this year, and a lot of which I really enjoyed. And I think that maybe if I had read this in January or even February, before I went on to read so many great thrillers, maybe my thoughts would have been different. But overall, this book just wasn't for me, and that's why I gave it 2 stars. I can't think of anything, wrong with it necessarily. I just found myself bored. I just found myself not really caring. I was caring in the beginning, but my attention span is very short, which I've mentioned so many times on my channel. I just honestly started getting bored and just completely lost interest. And I did want to push through and finish it, just to see, but I just didn't love it. And like I said before, especially knowing that this book beat some of my other favorites, my expectations were definitely high and this book fell flat. Now onto my 2 3-star books. The first book I have is Wilder Girls by Rory Power. Now I have a whole video discussing this book and why it was the most disappointing book of 2019 for me. So to avoid being extremely repetitive, I'm just going to keep it short and sweet, and if you really want to know, I'll have the video linked down below. But this book overall just really disappointed me. I felt that the premise was great, but overall it fell flat. This has been pitched as a female queer Lord of the Flies, which I completely agree with. And this is about a bunch of girls who are on this island, and on the island they're experiencing something called the tox, which is an illness, and they're being quarantined, and the government is delivering them food and stuff, and the tox is affecting everything that's alive on the island. So that includes, all the girls, all the wildlife, the trees, the plants, everything is being affected differently. Some of the girls experience like body mutations and some other actually really cool stuff. So yeah, overall basically they have to stay alive, and so it's sort of like a thriller horror-y book, and like I said, it did really disappoint me, but I didn't dislike it. Like I said, I disliked The Silent Patient. I did not dislike this book. It just disappointed me, and so it's kind of at the middle of the road, 3 stars. My last 3-star book is Night Shift by Stephen King, which I have been reading since October. I don't know why it took me so long to get through this. So overall, my thoughts on this book are that it was good. There were certain stories in here which I did give 5 stars, such as Children of the Corn, and Children of the Corn was the whole reason that I wanted to pick up this book in the first place. That short story was great. There were other short stories that I really enjoyed, such as Jerusalem's Lot, Graveyard Shift. I think there was one called Strawberry Skies, Strawberry Field, Strawberry something. I really liked those. And a few others that I obviously just can't think of off the top of my head. Then there were a few other stories that were just sort of middle of the road, fine. And then there were a couple stories in here that I really just overall didn't care for. So I feel like it's best to say that putting this book at a 3-star rating is fair, because there were stories I really did enjoy in this book. I didn't just completely love all of them. Regardless, I would still recommend this if you are interested in reading some of King's more short works, because I feel like it's easier to read this whole book, although it is like 500 pages. You know, going short story by short story sort of makes it go faster. But yeah, overall, 3 stars. Now into my 2 4-star books. First, we have Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. This book is the sequel to The Daughter of the Pirate King, so this is a fantasy duology, and as you can infer from the cover, it does have to do with sirens and pirates. So because this is a sequel, I won't really talk about the synopsis of this specific book, but I'll talk a little bit about the first book. The first book is about this girl named Alosa, who you can see on the cover. She has this beautiful, vibrant red hair, and she is the daughter of the Pirate King, and it's basically about her trying to get a hold of this map, and she has a crew, and it's just really great and nautical, and I really enjoyed that one and gave it 4 stars. There is a cute hate-to-love romance that occurs within these 2 books, and overall I really enjoyed it, and I could definitely see myself rereading this duology in the future. My last 4-star book is Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson. This is book 2 of 3 of the Remnant Chronicles trilogy, and this series is about a girl named Leah who on her wedding day decides that she doesn't want to marry the person whom she's betrothed to. She doesn't want to be a pawn in this sort of political game with her father, so she decides to just run away. And so in the first book, she's currently being chased or pursued by 2 men, one of which is the prince who she walked out on, and the other is an assassin who was sent to kill her. And you don't know who is who throughout the entirety of the first book, and you find out at the very end. So this was the second book, and I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. This has been overall just a really fun fantasy read that I would definitely recommend. Now into my 5 5-star reads. So for the month of December, I decided to choose Kevin from the channel Irish Reader as my booktuber for the month, and one of his favorite books is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, and he also sent me this copy for my birthday, so thank you so much, Kevin, and I absolutely loved it. If you haven't already seen it, I featured this book in my top 10 books of 2019 video. I loved it so much. The back of the book says, boy meets boy, boys become friends, and boys fall in love, and I feel like that's honestly just the best way to sum up this book without like giving anything away. But this book was so good. I'll post a picture of my Goodreads review because I feel like that's the only way for me to adequately sum up my feelings for this book. But I absolutely loved this. This book gave me so many feels, so many more feels than I thought I would get from it. And I loved it, and I would highly recommend it. My next 5-star book is actually a digital ARC, which is just as surprising to me as it probably is to you. And that book is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This book comes out later in January. This story is a really funny rom-com about these 2 teens named Pepper and Jack. And both Pepper and Jack are the children of parents who are in charge of really big restaurants. So a recipe gets stolen, and there becomes this really big Twitter feud between both restaurants. And then it turns out that Pepper and Jack are the ones tweeting on their family's restaurant accounts. So they have this whole online feud going, but then they sort of have this sort of banter in real life too. So they're feuding online and then with their restaurants, and then in real life with their own like issues with like the swim team and stuff. And this is pretty much a YA hate to love romance, but it's so funny, and I loved this book so much. When it comes out, I'm definitely getting a hard copy, and it's just so good. This is the debut novel for Emma Lord, and I feel like it's just so fantastic and cute and cheesy, and so if you're into stuff like that, then I think you'd love it. My next 5-star book is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This was absolutely fantastic, also featured on my top 10 of 2019. Overall, I would just say I loved this trilogy so much, and it's definitely one of my favorites. If you don't already know, this is book 3 of the Folk of Air trilogy, and the first book, The Cruel Prince, is about this girl named Jude and her twin sister Taryn who live in the realm of the Fae, but they're completely human. And there's this Prince Carden who's absolutely cruel to her. I mean, the title sort of explains it. But it's a really great hate to love romance. I really love hate to love romances. They're like one of my favorite tropes. And The Cruel Prince and the entire series overall is just really buzzed about here on BookTube and on Twitter and just in general. And I feel like for good reason. These books are absolutely phenomenal. This was a great conclusion to a wonderful trilogy, and I definitely want to pick it up again, hopefully in 2020, or if not, 2021. Definitely sooner than later. So the next book we have is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. This is another book that I gave 5 stars. And again, this is another book that was going up against The Silent Patient for the Goodreads Choice Award nominees for thrillers. And I just loved it so much. And this book is about a family who 25 years ago, someone called the police because they heard a baby crying, and the police go in this house to investigate and find 3 dead bodies downstairs dressed in black, and upstairs a 10-month-old baby just chilling in her crib completely unharmed with a suicide note left to tell whoever finds the baby to take care of the baby. So fast forward 25 years later, and what you don't know is there's actually a bunch of other siblings who lived in that house too, who were all not present the day that the police came and found the baby. So we have our main character, who's 25 now, Libby, who has just inherited this mansion, which is the house that she was in when she was a baby. And she's finally going to find out, like, her identity, who her parents were, you know, and she's going to get this really nice mansion. But then there's a whole bunch of other people who lived inside the house who are also waiting to go get the mansion as well. So it's sort of a story about, like, siblings coming together from different parts of the world, and it's so good. I loved this book so much. I read it after I read The Silent Patient too, so I had absolutely no expectations for this, considering that The Silent Patient won the award. But I absolutely loved this book. This is my first book by Lisa Jewell, so it kind of makes me want to pick up more of her works, but I loved this so much and would highly recommend. And finally, the last 5-star book, book number 10, which is On Writing, A Memoir of the Craft by Stephen King. So for one of my classes this semester, I actually wrote an essay about how Stephen King is one of the most well-known and influential authors, and just, you know, his impact and all that stuff. So I actually read this book for that essay. I ordered it for the specific purpose. So this book serves as like a short little memoir about Stephen King, but it also has like writing portions. So as you can see, I tabbed it up, and then the top tabs are like the writing section and then like different memoir sections. I really enjoyed this book. This is definitely a book that I will be revisiting when it comes to my own writing, because the certain section in here that does talk about writing, I feel was really well done and really informative, which is part of the reason why I tabbed the tops. And then the sides were just all stuff for my 7-page essay, or however long it was. I don't know. It was a hefty little essay. But anyway, yeah, I read this for school. I bought this for school, and I'm really glad I did. And it really gave me more of an insight about Stephen King, and I just learned a lot more about him. So if you're a fan of Stephen King, even if you don't necessarily want to be a writer, I definitely would recommend this, because there are like bits of memoir in this book. And yeah, overall I really enjoyed it and found it helpful. So those were all the books that I read during the month of December. I definitely finished off the year really strong, and I'm really excited to see what amazing books that I'm going to read this year in 2020. Thank you guys again for a great first year on BookTube. I really appreciate it. And of course, thank you guys so much for watching. And let me know in the comments some books that you read in December, or some of your favorites of 2019, or really whatever. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good one.